accountable, transparent, action-oriented, results-driven, and compassionate. A leadership that will fight corruption ruthlessly and lead by example, and not provide a safe haven for corrupt political appointees and other public officials. Implementing transformational policies.
Change is here to once more rekindle the embers of a dying flame that we saw burning brightly in our first republic. The wings of the butterfly are to breathe air into that embers or the embers of that flame and rekindle it to burn more brightly and show us a new way.
And there you have it, the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. They are bringing on board what they hope will be a change in our electoral system by way of the voting patterns. Now, they mean to make an impact. Leaders of 9 political groupings signing a pact to contest the 2024 general elections under the banner of that coalition they call the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. What are they revolutionizing? What are they changing? Now, this alliance, they say, seeks to end the dominance of the duopoly of the NDC and the MPP in Ghana's politics, which after 32 years of governance has failed to address the fundamental challenges of development and exacerbated hardship in the country. Well, this morning we have a member of that alliance. I am talking about none other than Dr. Abu Sakara Foster of the National Interest Movement, who is now also a member of this alliance. Doc, this is the second time in about 2 weeks, a fortnight, that you have joined me here.
Yes.
I love your batakari, by the way.
Thank you.
So let's go straight for the jugular without mincing words.
Yes.
This happened. The pact has been signed. The last time you came here, you spoke about, maybe another person, another group coming on board. Now we have 9.
Yes.
And how did you manage that?
And there's more to come. I think, first of all, we have found common ground. This is the first time, I think, we have done or put together an alliance based on conviction, not just convenience. It's not just a political convenience. It's a conviction of the framework within which we're working, which has ensured that the interests of all the groups and the things that they are pushing for are all within that framework. And basically, they're all looking for a change. They all want to see fundamental change. They all want to see impediments removed so that we can get better returns for our investment. And more importantly, they want to give hope to the youth of Ghana that something different can happen with the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. So, in addition to that, we have offered a great transformation plan, which will for once look at the integration of the various components that comprise the economy in a way that will build synergy and in a way that will be cost effective. And our approach towards the economy and the management of the economy will be entirely different. We will be borrowing to.
And you keep saying that your approach towards managing the economy will be fundamentally different.
Yes,
We've heard these things. We've heard these things from the MPP and the NDC. The big talk. Our politicians have not walked that talk.
That is why we've.
And mind you, if I may, I know I'm heckling you, but Alan Chemating, you see, especially from where he comes.
Yes.
Alan Chemating has been a member of not just one, but 2 administrations.
Yes.
He served under Kufuor. He is serving under Kufuor. He has served under Kufuor as a crucial minister, within cabinet. So some people are saying, is this not just another bit about talk, someone who is disgruntled, who wants to find his way back into the political limelight?
I don't think so. I think because, you see, we have to take certain things into consideration. Your capacity can only be optimized within the system that you work. If you do not have the chance to change the system within which you work, you perform only up to a certain level. And what he has had now is a chance to sit around with other people and change the approach and the system entirely. And when you look into the great transformation plan that has been put up, it is clear that this is going to be different. One, because we are putting a tripod and linking finance, infrastructure, and production areas of growth, particularly led by agriculture, so that we spend in those areas proportionally to what we spend in services. What you have had are two competing governments that have been spending on the services in order to win votes, but not spending as much as they should have in areas to generate income and growth. Secondly, they have not spent proportionally to what they have generated. They have spent disproportionately to what they have generated, and hence the continuing trajectory of the debt profile. So we have to come up with fundamental reforms that ensure that our hands are tied and we don't do those things. That is how it's going to be different. But if you come with a free-for-all approach where you say it is me, I've won, it is my manifesto, I'm going to do it my way, you will end up in the same ditch.
But you see, for example, recently I was speaking to Professor Raymond Atukuba. Yes, there are some issues. Our constitution is very good, but when you look at the Constitutional Review Commission's work, there are things we could tweak. Until that happens, and Prof himself alludes to the fact that because of the political elite, it probably won't happen until maybe the next 50 to 100 years, right? So you talk about these developments, but the reality too is that your hands being tied will continue to be tied constitutionally. Not much is going to change.
No.
Hold on. How are you going to bring these to bear, the tightening of the system and all of that, with the system still the way it is? Is that not, a pipe dream?
No. I think, first of all, the way we are approaching this is that before even getting into government, a great transformation plan has been put together. And if you look at the elements of that, it reflects most of the principles and the fundamental reforms that we should make in order to get us out of where we are. And whilst in government, we will then institute the constitutional changes and policy changes.
But that has already been done. The 2010 Constitutional Review Commission.
No, you haven't done it. You have not yet.
You mean the implementation?
You have
Is that what you're
yet
talking
made
about?
it mandatory for people to follow a national development.
No, I just want to get the point.
Yes.
So you are going to give effect to them. Is that what you're saying? What is in the Commission's report?
Yeah, we will ensure that we have a constitutional reform that permits or allows a mandatory national development plan. In other words, you can make your manifesto, but only within the framework of the national development plan and the milestones for that segment of of your tenure of government. So if the national development plan is set out in 5-year phases, there will be clear mileposts that says a developing country like Ghana, where you are now, don't try to jump to the top, talking about going to space. Are you with me? Get your fundamentals right first. Let's have a pervasive reduction in transaction costs by doing our waterway system. This is something every sensible nation that has a waterway system has done, even before it did rail, before it did roads. But we insist on doing roads, to the extent where even you're spending most of your money on just maintaining the roads. Whilst if you invested properly and did the waterway system, if we had a deep sea port between Ada and Keita, and we use barges with locks at Pong and Akosombo, we would have a waterway system more than 450 kilometers.
All these things you're saying, they are not new. A lot of them have been proposed.
Not done it.
But the point I'm trying to make is
Yes.
you keep talking about so that it's mandatory and every 5 years we must achieve this and all of that.
Yes.
Assuming your alliance
Yes.
comes to power, you're not going to be in power forever. Now, you know how our situation has been. You are not the first person talking about we should have the NDPCs. The NDPC is in the Constitution.
It's not
Hopefully,
mandatory.
the NDPC is in the Constitution.
Yes.
The Constitution has stipulations on how the NDPC works.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't talk about a mandatory system
Right.
where all of this will be done. In other words, what you're saying is that if you're going to implement this mandatory bit, you are going to tweak the Constitution to reflect that.
Of course, this is what I have said. I've said that we will have a constitutional reform that will allow and permit the NDP to be mandatory.
How are you going to actualize that through Parliament, for example?
It is very simple. You go for a referendum, and instead of saying that the NDP a president may implement the NDP, it will say he shall implement it. And the manifestos of political parties, even before they qualify to contest in an election, should reflect the NDP in terms of the stages for that period. And let me finish this. The reason for this is that you will then get the continuity from one regime to the other. You will not get abandoned projects anymore because it will be the same things that we're trying to do.
Right.
And furthermore, you will not get a rapid change in the priority of projects just because somebody made promises and therefore he has to change what is in the interest of the country.
I just wanted to draw your attention to this.
Yes.
I like it when politicians or whatever groupings come and they want to talk about these things from the constitutional standpoint. There are many aspects of our constitution which have shall, obligatory, mandatory, that our leaders do not go by. Are you aware of that?
Of course.
For example, since when did we start doing the State of the Nation addresses and all of that? But they were there.
Look,
From the Kufuor, era, that was when we, all of these, there were so many things there. The president shall, the executive shall, this and that, and they don't do it. So I don't think it is the wording there that is going to change anything.
It goes beyond that, I agree. But if your entire intervention is based on a reform and giving returns to investment for that, and you put your emphasis on making sure those reforms happen, you will then remove the impediments. After all, let us go to this point, which is the point I thought you'd rather bring up. What different interventions have the different governments done that are unique and totally spectacular? They're all the same, building roads, hospitals, schools. Why have they not delivered the returns to investment promised? It is because, essentially, the transaction costs are high. I admit that there's a lot of corruption in the system that is also an impediment. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is simply that we are not competitive because our transaction costs are high. And the only way you can do that is by ensuring that you have pervasive infrastructure development that reduces the transaction cost by a magnitude. And that is waterway system and rail system. And every country that has developed, are you and me, has done this. So why is it that you think you can get away with it, especially when you've been blessed with a waterway system that you only have to develop, especially when you inherited a colonial railway system that you only had to extend? So we are saying that if we don't get the foundation right, we will keep jumping and jumping to climb the wall, and we won't make it. So let's go back to the table and try and put these things in order.
Let me ask you, though, I mean, looking at the membership, you're looking at Akwesi Odike, you are looking at Bishop Samuel Noy-Mensah of the Ghana First Coalition, Reverend Stephen Ayensu, the Ghana Green Party, Dr. Abu Sakara Foster with the National Interest Movement, Augustina Kujo leading Third Force Movement, among others. And what I found curious in there was the extension of an invitation to the MPP for the launch of the very party he led. But let's talk about the different parties coming together, and the pen will flip sometimes. The different parties coming together, or the different groupings. Why these groupings? What do they bring to bear? What refreshing bits do they bring? And is it just not, oh, you are interested, come on board, or you are interested, come aboard? What is the strategy?
Well, you see, before we even invited them, we put together a memorandum of understanding.
Okay. What did they say?
That laid out very clearly the framework within which we would work, and within that framework, what I would say, the central thrust of it was the Great Transformation Plan. But even the Great Transformation Plan has to have a framework within which it works. So once we agreed that, look, we've been having all these interventions, we've not been getting the returns we want. What are the fundamental things that we need to do? We need to make some changes in governance. And those changes in governance must remove specific impediments that we've identified. That will give us the returns on the Great Transformation Plan. Therefore, anybody who is going to subscribe to this alliance must conform or fall in line with that framework. And furthermore, we are looking for people who have diverse interests as well, and who can come together. An alliance is made up of people with different strengths. Some people have strengths in one area, some people have strengths in another area. By coming together, you make a synergy. Ultimately, of course, we must all want to work together to seek a mandate for the executive and the legislative, because that is when you can implement your plans. So it was not simply a matter of just getting people together. In fact, you come and you don't agree, as I can show you, the memorandum here and the signatures. If we have a discussion with you, are you with me? If we see that we're too far apart and you can't sign, then it's better that you don't sign.
Are there such occasions where people have, wanted to come on board, but because of your MOU, they have turned away?
I don't think some people have come and gone with intention to come again, but it was not because of the MOU.
Right.
You know as well as I do that people may have their ambitions, and they want to see whether their ambitions will be fulfilled within this or not. If maybe they feel they still want to be presidential candidates, then they will go and do their own thing. But what we have said from the beginning is that, look, once we've got this framework, we know why alliances don't work. They don't work because everybody wants to be a presidential candidate. Let's get that out of the way first. Let's sit around the table, make some sacrifices. Who at this present time can we build this alliance around that will get us the furthest? And also, they will perform most creditably. It does not mean that nobody else could have done it, but it means that at this present time, given these circumstances, this is the person who we should all build an alliance around. And we proceeded with that. So that removed the usual struggle, who's going to be the presidential candidate, and then you sit around the table and discuss things and go to Congress, and then after that,
Are you targeting some of the traditional parties as well, especially those with an Nkrumah slant? The CPP, the PNP, the PPP is an offshoot, but maybe them as well. Are you targeting?
We would certainly very seriously look at them coming on board.
When you say very seriously, what do you mean? Are you going to approach them? Are you waiting for them to approach you? What's the approach?
No, I think we have ways and means. You may have had links with some people, and they more respond to you more than me, so you go see them. Are you with me? And that is the beauty of an alliance, that because we are coming from different places, I, for example, I've had links with CPP. I've also know the people in PPP, as well as PNC, so I could go talk to them. But there are other people who are closer to PNC than me who could go talk to them. The point is to try and get them to understand what we are doing. This is an alliance of conviction. We have a conviction about what we want to achieve. If you share in that conviction, come on board and let's look at your capacities and the role that you will best perform within that alliance, so that we have a synergy that makes us all stronger. It's not a case of this is a cake, let's share the positions, and then we all, egos are satisfied and we proceed. The question is, in what role can you best serve this alliance so that together we all achieve what we want to achieve.
Where do you stand in all of this? Are you number two in the alliance, second only to Alan Chebating? At whatever point in election 2024, you're going to have to come up with a presidential candidate and a running mate. Are you going to be the running mate?
Well, we don't want to put the cart before the horse. First of all, we've launched. We've let everybody know who our presidential candidate is, because usually when you have a new organization, somebody wants to know who is behind it. Now we've also lined up and shown the people, all the people that are involved so far. I believe more will come on board. The next step is to form or to unpack the structure of the alliance, which will have a national steering committee made up of all the leaders that are there, and then an executive secretariat that will facilitate and coordinate its decisions. And that will feed into a campaign, a national campaign structure, because we are not a political party. So it goes straight into a national campaign structure of the various units of specialization within a campaign, media, policy, operations, you name it, and then fall directly into volunteers at the electoral level. Again, because we are not a political party and we are a movement, we're not going to have regional chairman and the constituency chairman.
You may avoid those structures, which technically, and I was going to ask you whether you'd be ready before election 2020.
Oh, yes.
You may not be a political party, you may not need to have those district offices and all of that. The EC, some even fear that with this alliance you're putting together, you could be disqualified by the Electoral Commission. But you say you're not running as a party. What does the Constitution say?
Well, we are supporting an independent candidate.
I see.
And you, as long as you're 40 years old, you meet all the requirements, you're entitled to stand as an independent candidate.
Right.
And you can have anybody in Ghana supporting you.
Actually, our Constitution doesn't say independent. I mean, presidential candidate.
Yeah, independent presidential
candidate. To stand
as
a presidential candidate.
Independent presidential candidate. So the key word there is independent. And if you're independent, you're not standing on a party ticket.
Right.
Even if we say Alliance for Revolutionary Change, it's not going to appear on the ballot box. It's just going to be Alan Kodo Chirmanting and his symbol.
Right.
Yeah. So
but there are still technical angles to be met as far as the Electoral Commission is concerned. Of course, you have to go through the processes of registration, expressing your interest, and all of that.
Yeah.
But you see, there must still be systems on the ground to roll the agenda.
Yeah.
You may not need to have those offices and all of that, but on the ground, you need to be present. The question is, do you have what it takes, the ARC, to get this, tank moving?
I'm glad you asked that question. That is why when you look at the people involved, they have not just come together from nowhere to start a movement. People have been where they are. They have their people on the ground.
You have been there before. Flag bearer before.
Yeah, if you go around the
have
country,
been there
people
before.
will come to you. Say, "Well, we have been waiting for you." Everybody has people. Now the issue is to work within one structure. I know that the Movement for Change already have recruited thousands of people, volunteers, that will work at the electoral area level and polling station level. So our people will join in and link with those people so that we all become one and we work within that framework. And that is what gives us the synergy that maybe individually we could not have. And that is why I keep encouraging all those people who want to stand as independent presidential candidates and haven't got this kind of structure, are you and me, to come on board. Because how long will it take you to do it? It will take you time. And it's like, having a head without legs, So let's get together and pursue this. At any one time, somebody will have to lead. Somebody will have to make sacrifices so we achieve the objective. Who knows? Tomorrow it may be you.
Let's talk about being realistic. Alliances have been formed before in this country. Let's stick to the Fourth Republic, not go outside of it. They have usually collapsed on election day, not led to much. Guzitano, maybe the Grand Coalition was a bit, the MPP and everything in there. But alliances have amounted to nothing on our political terrain. Why do you think this time is going to be any different, especially considering how crucial the election is? Some people feel a lot of angst towards the system currently, and realistically, when they look at options, the duopoly of the NDC MPP comes to mind. Why do you think people would leave considering either the MPP, which is in government, or the NDC, which is supposed to be the option, to look at an alliance like yours? No track record, nothing.
Well, I think the first point is this. If we say that politics proceeds along the linear line, then the current parties would not have been here, would they? Something happened for them to also come.
Right.
And democracy, by its nature, usually delivers two political parties, a duopoly. But those duopolies, those parties have kept changing. When Britain started, was the Labour Party and the Conservatives the dominant parties? No, it was the Liberal Party. What has happened? That they are now the third party. Several years, not so much long ago, the Greens, what were they doing? Just on the high seas, disturbing people in boats. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Now, they have the majority in Parliament. Are you with me? Several. It goes on and on and on. And what I'm telling Ghanaian analysts is that don't be so myopic in looking at your little pond, in your little village. That's not how it works. If you look around, by the nature of democracy and the stagnation in duopoly, the democracy becomes less responsive to what the people want.
So here's my take.
And as that frustration builds up, you get a fracture, are you with me, in one or two of the dominant parties, and there's a reconfiguration around. So what has happened? Where is Alan from?
Right. And I was just about to ask you that. So is that the strategy? Alan, you can call his emergence an offshoot of the NPP. Politically speaking, if you're a watcher of our political landscape, you realize that it's going to cost the NPP more than it's going to maybe cost the NDC.
Of course.
So is that the strategy? Break down the NPP, whittle away votes, and that is how you create this third force?
The point here is that in any duopoly, when any of the two dominant groups reaches its natural point of fractures, because it is no longer either adhering to its founding principles or it has got internal frictions that cause a lack of cohesion. That is usually the point, a tipping point, at which there is a reconfiguration and another group emerges.
Has the NPP got to that point?
I think that what has happened now is an indication that they've begun on that path.
Because Alan has left the NPP before. This is his second time of departing from the NPP. So I'm asking, do you think at this point, under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's regime, the NPP, and having selected Dr. Bawumia, the NPP has actually got to that point?
You and I know that I'm not here to discuss NPP anyway. I'm here to discuss Alliance for Revolution. But it's only in the context of the fact that, along our political evolution, some fraction or some fracture has occurred. And that has created a circumstance in which the people who are non-aligned, are you with me, can pick up pieces of that, galvanize themselves around it, and continue. If another fracture occurs in NDC later on, we pick that one as well, and we go. And eventually, you'll see the evolution of a new political group. Rome was not built in a day. But by the same token, I'm telling you that our belief that because these two parties are there, they're going to be there forever and ever, that is obviously a falsehood. It's not the case. Because if you look around the world, that is not what happens. And also, you and I know that many, many people have been frustrated with our democracy and feel it is not delivering. That's because the extreme partisanship has created a situation where people feel, well, they don't have anybody to vote for anyway. They will vote for us. Now, if you used to go and buy a nice shirt in a shop and you kept telling the guy, look, these sizes don't fit, and you have only two shirts, 2 shops to buy from. Then eventually one small shop opens up and provides you the type of shirt you want. Are you going to say because you've always bought from those 2, you won't buy from it? And once you start going there, your friends will start going there. So it is not a static situation. That is the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
When people look at the political evolution, they see it only at a point in time because the changes take long periods.
Right. And
but maybe we are at the end of that long period.
maybe we're getting to the end.
Maybe we are at the end.
Okay, maybe we are at the end. Just on a lighter note, though, because of your constant use of fracture, I was thinking maybe National Fracture Party.
Oh no,
but that's just on a
National Revolutionary Party. That's a National Revolutionary Party.
Two quick things I want you to address.
Yes.
How is the Alliance for Revolutionary Change going to address the hydra-headed problems of the country? But there are 2 areas I want us to look at. 1, doomsday, and 2, corruption.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Galamsey, but anyway, it's all right.
Galamsey is, if we start the Galamsey conversation, we'll probably not end. We have limited time, so
you see,
doomsday and corruption.
I think the first point is that corruption is a systemic problem. In other words, it's within the system and fabric of governance itself. So if you are going to solve it, you are going to have to take a very different approach to the one we have taken now. I believe that we have to have lifestyle audits, particularly of public officials, and so that we can determine the point at which you acquired all these things from, and you don't pass it through other people and just keep it. So that is going to be something that when we already have somebody who has offered themselves to do those audits for us very nicely. I don't want to mention his name, but if you hear his name, I'm sure you will know that he's quite capable of doing that. Secondly, I think that the information system of learning about corruption has to come from ordinary people. You see, yes, you can have the Office of the Special Prosecutor, but it is only with information from ordinary people who are the implementing end that you get to know the real details and you can prosecute. Other than that, your prosecutions fail more than they succeed. So we have to have a desk that is linked not only to our Ministry of Information, but it's also linked to our National Intelligence System, where anybody in this studio can call and say, oh, Dr. Abu Sakara just left. He has taken 2 of your bottles from Joy FM. Somebody should investigate it and verify it.
Right.
Yeah? And if you have that kind of system where information can be given and acted upon, before it is then built in a dossier to give to people who will do the prosecution, I think we'll have more success. And there should not be conflict of interest. Right. It should not be that, oh, we've set up this system, we're going after those guys and not our guys. You know, it should be a fair system that everybody sees that, yes, it is fair. So, and in addition to that, we should also empower our judiciary. You know, we should not put encumbrances in our judiciary. We should ensure that they're operating independently. And part of this has to do also with the way appointments are made. We would want to see that there's greater independence and that there's a system of appointments that the judiciary themselves have a big input into to decide who is appointed to what position, as opposed to the executive sitting there and compromising itself by appointing those that it wants, or perceived, those who are perceived to be those that it wants.
Right.
So I think there's a whole series of interventions that need to be made in order to correct the system. It's a system correction that we need before we can have the returns to investment in implementation.
My final bit to you. What next now for the ARC? What can we expect in the coming weeks, months, maybe even days? What can we expect?
I think we are meeting today. We're going to populate our National Steering Committee. After that, we'll constitute our campaign team, integrate all the people that we now have, and then go down to the grassroots level to also integrate those people at the grassroots level so that we have an army on the ground ready for the election. Of course, we'll be doing the usual campaign things of going around to stakeholders, telling them what our message is, etc., and what they should anticipate. So we'll be campaigning vigorously. I think even in this by-election, we will have a candidate in Ejisu. So,
you will. The ARC will have a candidate in Ejisu.
Well, not
for the by-election,
as an independent candidate.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
We are an independent candidate in Ejisu that we will support. So I think that you'll be hearing more of us.
I see. Well, we hope to do exactly that,
yes.
and we want to see more of your solutions on nation building,
yes.
including on the NDPC and how you're going to,
yes.
conduct this referendum and everything
yes.
in between. But we're grateful for your time. Any final words?
Well, I want to tell the youth of Ghana in particular that this Alliance for Revolutionary Change is the gift from my generation to them.
Okay.
We've come together to put this together as a vehicle that will give voice to them, as a vehicle that will give hope to them. And therefore, they should think very clearly about this, look very carefully at it, and consider it as the only option that they have of building an alternative to the future that faces them now. So we will work together. It's going to be a transition. We'll pass the torch over the same way that our founding father passed the torch to us, to provide us guidance along the way.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abu Sakara Foster, joining me. He is with the National Interest Movement and, of course, now a member of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. They're promising many interesting things. We'll see in the coming days, weeks, and months what exactly they have on offer. But stay with us. Coming up next, we're going to talk energy matters. Yes, there is that tussle between the PRC and the ECG. Yes, there's the issue to do with transformers. Yes, there's the issue to do with the fines. Yes, there's the new Ameri relocated plant to Kumasi 1 thermal plant, among others. All of these we're going to be contemplating with the Executive Director, ASEP. I'm talking about Benjamin Boakye. That and more coming your way on the AM show. You want to stay for that.